We are ready.
Welcome to the January 23rd, 2023 meeting of the CB6 Land Use and Waterfront Committee. My name is Sandra McKee and I'm the chair of the committee. This meeting is called to order at 7:01 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by Assistant District Manager Brendan Burr. Members of the public, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Question and A feature of Zoom. If there is time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. As a reminder, New York state law now requires all community board members to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. If your camera is not on and your name not properly displayed, you cannot count towards quorum. We need a volunteer to take minutes tonight. If you are able to take minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. And this is an excellent way to get to know the committee business for all you new people on the committee. Just a bit of a nudge there. Do we have anyone who's willing to take? Gabe, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. I'm not sure if you were the only hand, but that's the first one I saw. Thank you.
Yeah, Gabe was the hand I saw.
Okay. The agenda for tonight's meeting was just, we will now take attendance by roll call and Brendan will conduct the roll call.
Committee members, I will call your name and you'll unmute yourselves. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Majed Abdul Samad.
Present.
Jim Collins. Okay, I do not see Jim and is therefore counted as not being present. Adam Hartkey, I know, may be joining us late. Sandy McKee.
Present.
Larry Shire. Okay, I do not see Larry, so he is counted as absent. Sandra Sherrod. Also
not able to make it this evening.
Okay. Letty Simon. Okay, I see Letty is here.
Yeah, I'm having a technical problem, so I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, and I see you don't have your camera on, so I'll count you as here, but not counting towards quorum. Jonathan DeRico.
Present.
Okay. Rich Mintz.
Present.
Susan Steinberg.
Present.
Gabe Terza.
Present.
And Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and appears on the screen before you. If there is no objection, adopt the agenda as stated. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the January 5th meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting these minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the January 5th meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, there are a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. The chat function should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties not having or to state in writing information such as an email address that was already stated aloud. When a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Committee members are required by the state open meetings law to have their Zoom cameras on and first and last name displayed during tonight's entire meeting. If you must step away from your computer briefly, you are required to leave your camera on. And I'd like to welcome the new members to the committee and ask them to briefly introduce themselves and maybe just a few words of why they wanted to join us. We'll start with Jonathan.
Hey everyone, I see I won the lottery and get to go first. I'm really excited to be working with all of you. I live in Peter Cooper Village, as part of Stuyvesant Town, right on the water. So really excited to touch some issues that really closely affect my hometown. Thank you.
Great. And Rich, you're up next.
Yep, I'm Rich Mintz. I live next to Root College off 23rd Street. And I'm happy to be here because there's crossover between land use and the housing committee, which I'm also on. And so I'm hoping that the two committees can work better together in the future. And also, I am coming to you from a boba shop in San Francisco, which is why I keep lifting this cup.
and the flashing lights, it's great. Susan.
Hi, I live in Stuyvesant Town, which is the poorer cousin to Peter Cooper Village. And because I'm also on the Business Affairs and Licensing Committee, commercial and retail and things of that nature are a concern. And I'm particularly interested in what the economic plan for small businesses is.
Great. And Gabriel.
Thank you. Yeah, you can just call me Gabe. I live at 26th and 3rd, and I'm interested in this committee because I feel like the land and the waterfront are really the city's greatest assets, and how we shepherd them and how we use them have huge implications for the overall vitality of New York City.
And Brian.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian. I am the chair of the board's transportation committee. I am also here because of the synergies between our two committees. And I look forward to participating here. I have some ideas. I'm also part of the Peter Cooper Stuyvesant Town team over here.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, and hopefully we can do lots of great things on the committee. Our first agenda item is an update on the Department of Design and Construction water main project in Kips Bay and Murray Hill. And Karen, if you want to introduce your team.
My name is Karen Flores. I'm the Community Construction Liaison for the MED 607 New York City Department of Design and Construction water main project. It's the infrastructure upgrade project, and I help with the community, and I work closely with the resident engineer.
My name is Robert Bro. I'm the resident engineer of the project. It was nice meeting everyone so far, hearing a little bit about everybody. And should I get going on the presentation? Okay.
Yes, please.
Right. All right, so tonight's agenda in this presentation is to go over the project, to talk about a construction overview, as well as a expected project completion and schedule, to discuss final restoration and tree guards around the project site, and to also discuss storage areas, public spaces, and community outreach. All right, the first slide, this is a location plan. So everything you see here in hashed marks are areas where there's going to be construction done or has had construction done. There are some locations like East 33rd between 2nd and 3rd that are 100% complete, but the remaining areas have either some small amount of work to be done or still large infrastructure work to be done. So as you can see, the job affects 3rd Avenue, 2nd Avenue, 33rd Street, 35th Street, 35th Street going all the way down to First Avenue, actually. All right, so how will this project benefit everyone? At the end of the job, you'll have new roadways that will have new fresh striping. We do extensive water main on this project, distribution main, which is the smaller mains that service buildings and residents and businesses, and the larger mains that take the water from the water tunnel and the shaft and then distribute it to the smaller mains, which then take the water to the buildings. We also upgrade some various private utilities along the way, electrical systems, gas systems. There's some new drainage that's been installed and will continue to be installed in the project also. All right, so this is a pretty interesting slide. The right picture is one of the largest water mains that we're going to install on the job. This picture's from another project, but it's a 48-inch diameter trunk water main. So imagine trying to fit a pipe of that magnitude into a hole that you see on the left, which is jam-packed with all types of private utilities, gas lines, electric lines, internet, fiber optics, telephone cables. So a lot goes into what we're doing out there. There's a lot of preparation, inspection, testing, planning that goes into the final product. All right, so how long will the job take? I'm sure this is one of the burning questions. As of right now, we anticipate the job to be done at the end of 2024. Primary reason for the job going a little longer than expected is underground utility conflicts. But through identifying the conflicts and necessary mitigation, we've developed a game plan to be able to move whatever needs to be moved out of the way to allow for the city facilities to be installed in the quickest way possible and with as little disruption to the community as possible. All right, I want to give everyone an update on what we're doing today, what's going on right now in the field. So the most critical location of the job is East 35th Street and First Avenue. We have to install a large 48-inch water main, make a connection to an existing main running north and south at that intersection. And by bringing this large pipe across the street, it has to go across many different private utilities that are in the way. Currently, we're working on a transmission main. The transmission main had a shell or an encasement around it that had to be removed to create the necessary clearance for the main. We've done that. Now we're just doing some restoration work. That's what this photo is showing, some retaping of the main. And 95% of this work is done for this main. We should be done within a few weeks. Once that's done, we're going to go to the next step, which is steam main work, relocation work. This is definitely the largest and most extensive work at this intersection that we're going to need to do. But we've discussed this with the contractor, and they're going to have one dedicated crew nonstop at this location. So as soon as one thing is done, they'll jump into the next mitigation work. There's going to be no lapses in time, no delays. It's going to be continuous work at this location, which is the most efficient way to do it. We're also trying to work with the City Department of Transportation. We have permits for this intersection, but the permits only go to midday, about 3:30 p.m., Monday to Friday. So we're working with DOT to try to push for extended daytime hours to expedite the timeframes for all work at the intersection, especially steam. Okay. Also today, we started the trunk water main, 48-inch trunk water main work on 35th Street between 1st and 2nd Avenue. So as you can see in the photo on the left, we set up the MPT, maintenance of protection of traffic. We set up our work area. The barrier is separating the work zone from the traffic. So there's going to be the traffic lane on the south side of the street and all the work is going to be performed on the north side of the street. We coordinated with various agencies to get all this work underway, including Parks Department. The picture on the right is St. Barton Park along 2nd Avenue at 36th Street. So in order to keep handicap access to the park, we created an entryway through the 12-foot fencing. This is necessary because part of our work scope involves closing the main entrance on 35th between 2nd Avenue and the Queens Midtown Tunnel approach. Okay, we should talk about some storage areas. Luckily, in the last year or so, we've reduced the footprint of storage. Part of this was due to finishing all work on 33rd Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. We had a storage area on the 33rd Street northwest corner. We also had one on the southwest corner on, the northeast corner of 3rd Avenue and 33rd Street. Both of those have been removed to allow for the work to be complete. So that block is completely done. So we only really have 2 storage areas now. In fact, part of starting the trunk main work that I showed in the previous slide, we had some storage on that street also, 35th Street between the tunnel approach and 2nd, and that's all gone. So there's only 2 storage areas left, 33rd Street and 2nd, and 36th Street between 1st and 2nd. We tried to work with the contractor to minimize these impacts. 33rd Street and 2nd, they're going to keep until all major work is done. So once all the water main work is done and there's minor completion work, that storage area will be gone. But we're going to most likely maintain the 36th Street storage for the duration of the project. Now, we had received some comments. We can talk about this after my presentation, but about the graffiti. You can see some graffiti on that top right photo. So this is a little tricky. We originally did the storage with no protective screening, so no green mesh. And the community didn't like seeing, the construction debris, materials inside the storage area. I shouldn't say debris, I mean construction materials. So we put up the screening so people don't have to see it. And now the screening is graffitied. So we could discuss on, what you'd like to do moving forward. If you want us to remove the screening or leave it up as is. All right, so tree guards. This often comes up in community comments, concerns about the tree guards, how they're being maintained, why they're in place. So tree guards need to be in place and maintain the entire project lifespan. This is a Parks Department specification. So even if I'm sure some people outside will see tree guards in a place where they haven't seen active work for months or even years and wonder why they're still up, they have to be. In short, they have to be up. We really have no say in that. Now, on this job, the 33rd Street location that I mentioned, we worked with the contractor to remove them. They didn't need to do that because technically they're taking on responsibility should anything happen to any of the trees on that street. But we work with them to take them down, especially that it's a street with a school. So we were able to remove those, but the remaining tree guards will have to stay up. What we can do is make sure we're maintaining them. Unfortunately, people tend to throw garbage in them. Sometimes they get hit and they, become a little disheveled and some pieces fall off. So we do work with the contractor does routinely maintain them. So if something's in bad shape, they'll reinforce it. If someone graffitis or marks them, they can paint over them. If garbage is thrown aside, they can rid the pits of garbage. They've actually even brought topsoil at times if there's some soil erosion going on inside the pit. So that's what we're going to try to do, maintain it as best as we can to keep them in tip-top shape. But we unfortunately do need to keep them in place for the duration of the project. Okay, roadway repaving. I could talk about some specific locations here. Repaving on 3rd Avenue is incomplete due to a few reasons. There's many outside dining facilities up there, but we also have some work remaining. We have a water main that's going to go on 35th between 2nd and 3rd. Although the 3rd Avenue portion is done, we're going to have to connect in. So we still have work to be done there. The one location that's 100% done that we can repave is 2nd Avenue south of 34th Street. So can you see my cursor? You can see my arrow right over here. So this is being discussed and coordinated with the contractor. This is an area that can be finally repaved, final restoration, completely done. So we will coordinate with them, communicate with them. And if we ever do come to a schedule and know when this work will be done, we'll keep the community board informed ahead of time. All other areas of the job are incomplete. Some areas have major work remaining, so they cannot be restored until all that work is done. But we will make sure we're maintaining not just the roadway, but any kind of road plates or pontoons or anything that's protecting an excavation or a storage area. We'll make sure that we're going to maintain it and make it safe for pedestrians and vehicles. Okay, so this location here, 35th Street between 2nd and 3rd. Like I had mentioned before, we still have to do a large water main, 36-inch diameter water main on the street. But similar to First Avenue, where we have many utility conflicts, we have them here also. So the contractor is working only on weekends, which is a little unfortunate. The permits only allow us to work because of the congestion and the tunnel exit street. We can only work on the street on weekends. So the contractor's been working weekends for 1 year plus, maybe 2 years plus at this location. It's slow going because we can only work 2 days a week, but we're doing everything we can to eliminate the steam conflicts to allow for the water main to be installed. We estimate now that the water main work will begin at the end of this year. All right, 35th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. I showed some pictures earlier of the MPT setup and the park entrance. This is where the trunk water main has just begun today. So they set up the zone, they set up the MPT. They're going to begin digging later this week. This is pretty complicated work. We have a lot of connections. We have to connect to the shaft. We have many appurtenances and chambers. And not to get into too many specifics, but this is considerable work here that we estimate will take roughly 6 months. Now, we're not going to be able to bring the pipe all the way down to First. We're going to come up short because we have all that mitigation work that we still need to complete. So we'll bring the pipe as far as we can, put a temporary cap on it. And then later on, when all the work is complete, the First Avenue and the lane is ready, then we'll complete the installation into First Avenue. And here's First Avenue, like we discussed, East 35th and First. This is where the major utility conflict work is ongoing. The transmission gas main work has only a few weeks remaining. Steam work will follow that, but there's also electric work that needs to be done here, high pressure gas work that needs to be done here, some sewer work that needs to be done here, all to allow for the large water main work to take place. All right, so community outreach. DDC's Office of Community Outreach and Notification works with community boards, business improvement districts, local businesses impacted by construction. Karen, who introduced herself earlier, is the Project CCL. She works with VRX, which is a sub to my company, Greeley and Hanson. We're the prime consultant on the job, and she's the dedicated on-site community construction liaison. And here's her information, email and phone number below. And that's it. So see if any.
Great, thank you. And I have one, just so the committee knows, when was this project started?
2018.
Yeah, just general information there. Rich had his hand up first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I first want to note that this started in my very first meeting of the community board, and I've now been here for 2 years. So I live right in the neighborhood. So I'm happy to see the progress. My question is, if I understand correctly, you said that you're ready to repave 2nd Avenue below 34th Street. But isn't there a storage area right there at 2nd Avenue between 34th and 33rd?
Yes, there's a storage area over there, yes.
Can you repave around that? Or like what happened?
Yeah, we might have to make adjustments to that if we're gonna do that.
Okay. I mean, the reason I'm asking is that's a high volume bike lane stretch, which is already kind of a mess. And you know, I would love to see that repaved as soon as possible. I'm just sort of praying that you could go around the storage.
Okay, Susan.
Thank you. What was the genesis of this project? Was it because of increased population density? I mean, why did they decide there had to be a new water main?
Well, this goes back to the water tunnels. So we've always had 2 for, decades, but there's a need for a 3rd for redundancy purposes. So for them to be able to maintain one of the 2 tunnels, you need to have a 3rd. You basically, what I'm trying to say is, if you only have 2 tunnels and you have to shut one off to fix the other, you don't have enough water to service the city. So they had to create a 3rd tunnel. And this is a job that connects to the tunnel. So the tunnel brings the water in, goes to a shaft. The shaft brings the water up to the street. Those go into the larger 48-inch and 36-inch water mains. And then those funnel down to the smaller mains that distribute the water to the buildings. So yes, it's like an overall Manhattan capacity issue.
So it's only going to be operational if in other words, all 3 don't work at one time. One is always kind of overlay, or
Yeah, more or less, yes.
Thank you.
I know in earlier presentations, they also noted the age of some of the piping in our district. I think some of it was from the 1800s and may have been wood.
Yes.
So there was certainly, that was an issue as well. Brendan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just a couple of things. One is just a general sort of service request type question. I know you said, Robert, that some of the outdoor dining structures on 3rd Avenue have prevented some restoration of the pavement. I'm just curious as to whether you all have been in communication with DOT about that, and if not, whether CB6 making sure you all are in communication with them about that would be of help.
Okay, so we have actually had one of them successfully taken down. There's a place, Ted's Tavern, that's on 35th and 3rd. That was really critical to get the steam, to allow that steam mitigation work to be done. So we communicated with them in advance, and they removed their shed down. That was holding up the critical path for the project. And we've had some communications with DDC to just let them know the critical locations and if it's holding us up. So yes, we have had some communications. I haven't spoken directly to any business, but we've had discussions with the agency, and there's some discussions happening on that. Yes.
Okay, good. And I just wanted to flag a question that Kevin O'Keefe, who himself is a CB6 member, has in the Q&A about the tree guards.
Yeah, I just opened that up. Let me see if I could type it, I guess, right? Type the answer.
Yeah, but you could also answer live if you want to.
Yeah, answering live is fine, maybe
Okay,
better.
for the tree guards that came down, what did the businesses and schools there do or say that got the trees down? Can other parties say or do the same to get other tree guards down? I feel like we've had comments for all locations. It was definitely a little more concentrated there. I think part of it was some of the residents on the street that were a little more vocal about it, and definitely the school, which didn't like to have them up. And when they saw the work, I think when they started seeing the work getting wrapped up, and they started asking the questions, why do we still need these when the roadways resurface now? That's when the discussion internally started accelerating a bit with the contractor and the city. And, luckily we were able to work it out over there that there was not really a need for them to be in place anymore. So we were able to get them down. So yes, it was somewhat in response to that got the discussion going. I mean, I think if no one ever said anything, then we probably would have left them up. But some residents in the street plus the school had made some comments, and we discussed it, and we were able to get them down.
And Susan has her hand up, but some of those tree guards have been up for 5 years and are looking a little worse for wear. Like you said, 2018, I think was the start. So
yeah,
if there's any advocacy that we can do to get some of them taken down on First Avenue, for instance, I guess we'll try and put that together.
Okay.
And Susan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm for leaving the green screens with the graffiti up. It's street art after all.
Yeah.
And I think it's better than looking at the construction stuff in behind. That's, I think that was the one space that we were really hoping to get back because it was going to be a public space. It was given back from street use into more of a public space. So will you gradually be reducing it over time as you find you don't need as much? You're sort of peeling it back, or you just want to restore it all at one time?
That's possible. I mean, we have reduced the one on 36th Street before. That's a much larger storage area, so they tightened that up as best they could. 33rd Street's a little smaller. I mean, it's possible they can reduce it a little, but it's not too big. It's not too big to begin with. That one.
And I know there were hopes to make 36th Street an open street in the future when the work is going on at the park. So that the space on 36 also is very precious.
Yeah.
There will be once the park is under renovation.
Mm-hmm.
I did have another question from Victoria. Do the tree guards have to be wood, as you showed?
Yeah, that's the way the specification reads. And it has to be large pieces like they are. And it has to be a large footprint. I think they're like 8 foot by 8 foot, if I'm not mistaken. Which sometimes gets to be tricky when you're on smaller streets. Not really so much here, but sometimes in residential areas where you have, like, say, a 5-foot pit and then a 5-foot walkway next to it, and now you have an 8-foot thing. Sometimes it gets a little tricky where you're trying to satisfy everything at once, while also keeping an area for people to get by, walk, wheelchair accessibility, etc. But yes, it does have to be installed with wood.
And Gabe, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just real quick. Are we finding the water infrastructure we're replacing to be particularly degraded? The reason I ask is because the strip of roads in question are sort of famously bumpy and choppy and warped. And I'm wondering if we can expect the improvement in the water infrastructure to kind of prevent that going forward.
Yes, it should. I mean, yes, you're right. A lot of the water mains we're coming across are very old, much worse materials that are outdated materials. Someone had mentioned wood before, but a lot of the mains were built with like cast iron back in the day. That they kind of got away from that. I think maybe in the 70s or so. But yeah, I've seen water mains pulled out of the ground where a machine lays it on the floor and it just like falls apart. It's amazing that it's able to keep water under pressure inside of it and not give way, but they do somehow. So yeah, we're installing with much better materials, more leak resistant, stronger in general. So when you put those in the ground, and now you're putting better backfill materials too, yeah, it should make for a much sturdier roadway.
And Kevin has put another item into the chat. Just I guess wondering what the bar is for getting those tree guards removed. How much we need to advocate, because they've been around for a long time. So.
Yeah. Like I said, we've had these discussions. Me and Karen have had walkthroughs with I think we had a walkthrough with a Murray Hill group. I'm not sure if it's this one listed here, but yeah, we've received the comments. We brought it up. We've talked to the city. We've talked to, we have to work within our rules. So it's it's really not up to us, you know?
And just so I can interrupt Kevin, yes, I am very aware of the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association and the groups under it that are vocal about the tree guards. We are, we try to work with them, and Robert's really good with that too. So we've done walkthroughs and stuff. So yes, we are. Thank you.
And I guess too, one of the things that can happen here is, as we noted, some of these streets are really rough, and this hasn't helped them, but some of the existing drainage issues could be sort of addressed with the repaving as you go forward.
Yes. Yeah, we had, for example, we had an issue on 3rd Avenue, 34th Street. There was a lot of ponding in one of the corners. We put a new catch basin in to receive that, so there's no problem there now. But yes, as we repave, if we notice any standing water, we're not going to leave it that way. We're going to do what we can to make sure that the asphalt's going to pitch the right way and bring the water to where it needs to go.
Right. Well, thank you. It's good to know the timeline for this, because we see the work going on, but we weren't quite sure what stage you were at.
Okay.
You may hear more about tree guards from our community, but that's great. And
I'm sure I will.
And any other issues that we hope that you might be able to address through this, we'll let you know. But thank you very much. It's really appreciated.
No problem. And I want to hear about it. Anything that's going on, and people want to talk about it, anything we can do within reason, within the rules, we'd love to do it.
And please give out my email address, my phone number. I would be very happy to take down any questions, and I always share every single one with Robert.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
All right. Our next agenda item is a continued discussion of the City of Yes, the series of 3 zoning text amendments proposed by the Adams administration. So zoning for zero carbon, zoning for economic opportunity, and zoning for housing. And Majed has put together a preliminary response to this. We've talked about it, I guess, at a few meetings, and we're hoping to get the resolution completed. And Majed, do you want to just give a brief overview then, especially for some of our newer members who may not be familiar?
Yeah, sure. So a very quick summary is that the Adams administration, as part of their City of Yes initiative, trying to do zoning text amendments, and then really focus on three pillars, really. Zoning for zero carbon, trying to find basically local energy generation opportunities as it relates to buildings, which this is really manifesting in the form of solar panels on roofs of buildings. In principle, everybody here agrees it's a good idea, but devil is in the details. So we put a couple of questions about that, specifically why they're not requiring for shade and light study, how residents of buildings where these things are applied can benefit, and whether these solar panels also can serve as a backup system in times of disaster or extreme weather events, and not just for landlords to use them to sell back to the grid. There are a couple more questions which we can go through, but I tried to summarize, and Sandy and others, I'm curious if you have another perspective on how we frame this. Sandro sent a very helpful input, is that don't frame this as a question, but rather as a belief, like where does the community stand on this, and Department of City Planning and others can make what they will out of it. So that's how those were framed. The other two, I'm just going to mention them, and others please jump in after. We talked zoning for zero carbon. There's zoning for economic development. That's really just some changes in eligibility for what kind of stores and businesses open. And there's zoning for housing. And again, at the heart of that is allowing, there are a number of smaller things, but the largest is allowing commercial and office buildings to transform their use to residential, not newly constructed ones, or at least that's what we're hoping. So one of our questions is, how are you making sure this is not a loophole? But we all think, and living where we all live, I mean, I'm in Midtown, and there's an abundance of office buildings that are sitting vacant. And I think this could drastically increase the number of units, residential units in the area, addressing the housing crisis that we have. So I'll stop here, and I see Jim has a question.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to confirm something with respect to the being of having electricity available offline, and I wanted to ensure that that was also applicable to you could have it online going into the grid as well as independent of the grid. Is that correct?
Yeah, so sorry, your voice broke up at the beginning, but from what I understand from you, the idea is that eventually, landlords, they set this up on their building and they can sell back to the grid. Nowhere in the zoning text say they are required to use it locally in case the building is for any reason disconnected from the network, and that's what we're asking about.
Okay, so it would also operate independently then, correct?
In principle, it can. It's not mandated. We hope that it can, they add a mandate for that. Okay.
And the other question was, you make reference to PV. By that, you mean photovoltaic cells, I imagine?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. You might, is that spelled out in the resolution? You might want to.
I think I spelled it the first time I mentioned it, but if not,
did you? Okay.
Go back. Did I? Okay, if not, Brandon, maybe if you're able to edit it, update that, since it does not impact the content.
So it is, could you say again what it is?
I'll put in the chat, actually.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah.
That way I can make sure the stuff is correct as well.
That'll stop a question at the full board. Thank you.
Susan has her hand raised.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, and if my questions are annoying because I'm new, let me know and I'll shut up. But there's this huge rush to become all electrified, and I just keep thinking of these horrendous situations with climate disasters where millions of people are left without power, and I just am making that comment. I mean, I don't know what alternative we have that could be cleaner, but it just worries me. That was number one. Number two, in terms of converting offices to residential facilities, it requires a lot of other, let me call it, infrastructure to really make it work. Groceries, pharmacies, schools, hospitals, doctors' offices. And so it can't, it's not just a matter of additional housing, it's everything that goes with it to make a neighborhood. All right, I shut up.
No, I'll just say that's helpful. Susan, to your comment about basically the PVs, we even added a question about there's the new technology for types of glass that have PVs embedded in them. Now they're not, you don't see them everywhere because they're still really expensive, but this is where a zoning text amendment makes it worth it for a developer to look at that more seriously, especially with all the glass towers we have. So we have that as one of the points. Yeah, so I'll just comment on that.
And I think, Susan, you're absolutely right about needing, neighborhood facilities. If we do increase housing, that's really a much larger issue that the city will have to address if we do increase the residential density in our neighborhoods. I think there are probably lots of areas in New York that are underbuilt. And I don't know if we do address that in this, that the multiple dwelling, I think it's at 12 FAR is our maximum right now. And so some of the things that are being converted would be more than 12, which definitely does increase density. I don't know if we have a position on that. If that's something we do want to add into our review here.
I'll add to that, Sandy, that the one reference we did there is that the zoning text amendments do not address light and air requirements for access for conversions, which, if you're building a residential building, you have very strict requirements. Office, it's a little different, but now if that office building becomes residential, how do they go about it? So one of our comments is also about that.
I don't know if you see these, Michelle, but Adam has his hand raised now as well.
Go for it, Anna.
Sure. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Majay. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm for maximizing density to the extent possible, especially within Midtown Manhattan. I think it's truthfully great. But just a technical question: was this emailed to us at all beforehand? I know I saw the solar one reso this afternoon, but I'm not sure if I saw this in my inbox.
No, it was not. We didn't have it
Okay.
in time.
Would you mind? I saw the housing thing, so I've just been reading along. Would you just mind scrolling down to there? Just wanted to just read this. So thanks.
Yeah, and I'll only add that to the density point. We included a question about the size cap. So units are capped at 680 square foot minimum for new construction. There are a number of details, and that number has been brought down over the years. Now, when you can build smaller units, you can build more units because you are restricted to it by area, but up to a limit. So 2 points we asked. First, has the city, specifically DCP, done any analysis on the demographic and socioeconomic impact of having smaller units and what that means? And the other was that we are in favor of removing the cap or lowering the unit size minimum cap per the findings of whatever studies they have. I have to assume, I worked for a little bit for DCP, so I have to assume at least some analysis has been done, even if it's not made public. There's no analysis that's public that I can see, and maybe there isn't. I just missed it. If somebody knows, let me know. But that's one of the things we're asking.
Adam, do you have a?
Oh yeah, sorry. I just wanted to respond to that. So are we asking that in the resolution, or are we stating that as like an affirmative, like we would like to see something?
Those are the first 2 points you see there. Just our belief in that.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Mine. Yeah.
Susan?
I just wondered if anybody knew how successful those really small units were in the 20s, that new building that went up. I haven't heard any reports of how that's working.
And I don't know that we have any feedback. I mean, they're the smallest units in the city. I believe, like it was especially built for our neighborhood. Brendan, do you know if we have any feedback from individuals there or from? I'm not sure how the structure of the building, who runs it.
I have not heard anything myself.
But it's a good point, Susan. We probably should reach out and try and find out more about how that building is working. And I know there was a lot of discussion at the time was who is actually going to use those units. Would it be students? Who would actually gravitate to that space? So yes, we probably should try and find that out.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? And we are doing this as a resolution, but partly the city planning has said that anyone can use their website and put questions into it. They do have a, on their site, they ask for feedback. So we tried to do this as officially from our neighborhood, but certainly individuals can go and add their own comments. I know we put something out in the newsletter. Brendan, did we receive any feedback from community members?
No.
Okay.
And so for new community members, if you just type CityFES and DCP, that would be the first link you get. So I'm going to put it in the chat, but just mentioning for other folks, it's literally just typing in Google CityFES. DCP stands for Department of City Planning.
And I know we were hoping, right? Sorry, I was muted. We were hoping to vote on this if we feel comfortable with bringing this resolution to the full board.
Is there a exigent time requirement on this? I'm just seeing this in like bits and pieces, and I'm curious to read the whole thing in one sitting.
Well, I think we do want to probably present at the next full board, and certainly we would have time to have people look at it and make any comments. I think this is the third month we've been talking about it, so we would like to sort of pull it together.
No, I'm just talking about the reso
Yes.
itself.
Right, we would like to present it to full board.
Yeah. I'm just thinking perhaps we can review it and then caucus and do a brief caucus and then vote it.
Yeah.
I don't really feel appropriate to vote myself because I haven't read through the thing yet. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we haven't really worked out how to caucus, but
Sandy, if I can this is the wording here is just reworked and just put in the format that Sandra suggested, but that's the same document we shared the last committee meeting. So I believe everybody had access to this already in the form of a Google Doc, but that was still being that was a little bit more messy. So this is just a cleaned up version of it. Although, sorry, Jim, I should have worked on this earlier, so you all should have gotten.
No.
Yeah.
Everybody here is a volunteer, and you do what you can. You don't, everybody except Brendan, so we can all beat up on Brendan. No,
and just
don't worry about that. I just,
yeah.
Let me take a look at it and see what I can do with it.
And yeah, Susan noted that it's hard to see on the screen here, like you don't see the full thing. And then Larry, I think you had your hand raised.
It goes to the mechanics. Brendan, is there any way that you could slowly scroll down from the top of this and just give us a chance to confirm that there's nothing that's been slipped in that we didn't expect?
If I may suggest, perhaps we can, Brendan, would it be possible to email the committee the revised resolution? We can take a look at it while Sandra is giving her chair's report, and then we can circle back and take a vote on it. Would that work? Because we can all read it in the interim.
I'll defer to the committee chair on that. If that's what the chair would like, I can make that possible.
Well, yes, I think absolutely emailing it to everyone. I have a very brief chair report, but I can speak slowly. So yes, let's try and do that and see if we can have some review of this. And Brian, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I was going to make a motion to vote on supporting this resolution.
Okay, and we'll put that off to the end of the meeting so hopefully people will have a chance to take a look at it.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult. I understand, especially with our new members, we've been talking about this for 3 months and it's a lot to sort of, take in one fell swoop here. So we will do that. Brendan, if you could please email that to everybody. And our next issue is also it's a discussion of providing access to the water at the Solar 2 Environmental and Education Center. And this is something that was emailed out today, and apologies, it just went today, but at least hopefully you did get a chance to take a look at this. And Larry put this together. And Brendan, can you put that one up too, or are you busy?
Just give me a moment to
To
send,
do what you have to do. Okay.
yeah, to send the resolution that you'd like me sent to the committee.
Absolutely.
I will also let you all know when it is sent.
And just, I think Larry can give you a fuller description, but we've had several presentations about the work at Solar One. And one of the things that came out of those discussions was that there is no longer going to be access to the water itself from their facility and from the park. And that's something that there was a lot of discussion about previously, and we'd like it to be brought into the project. So Larry, do you want to give a kind of a brief rundown? I know you spoke to Solar One about this as well.
Oh, well, I exchanged emails with Dina, and the portion of the resolution that contains the proposals of Solar One are the things which she thinks, and it's not an exclusive list, but things that she thinks would benefit from having easy access to the water. There was at last month's meeting something of a back and forth about how healthy it is to have access to the water, and in connection with their architect's plans, they removed the original proposal to have a storage area for kayaks. I tried to deal lightly with that subject here. I'm not making, we're not making any kind of a recommendation, pro or con, about whether any particular type of human watercraft activity is appropriate. Obviously, if there are going to be any people who get down and close to the water, this would have to be done with hygiene and safety, and the idea of what the water quality is like at that time in mind. And so this is a more aspirational type of a resolution, just focused on 2 points. And the 2 points are, one, that there's no gate as there currently is, and that is an oversight that needs to be rectified in the case of the need to approach the water or approach the sandy beach. And then the second part of it is, if there is going to be specifically a human-powered watercraft storage upland, there needs to be some mechanism to bring the watercraft down to the water level. One suggestion that was made by an advocacy group that came to us, suggesting that the boats that be used would be something called a Whitehall gig, which is a longboat, which would carry a number of people in it. Would be to lower the boats down via davits, as you see on an ocean liner. You lower the lifeboats down that have been suspended above. But that's not the only way that it could be done. There was a proposal earlier also for a dock, an eco dock down at the water level, a floating dock with a ramp up to the railing, and again a gate through which you might be able to carry boats down. I didn't mention that. That could be added if anybody wants to mention that.
And also, I think it's important for people to know that we've been advocating for taking the space under the FDR for public use rather than parking. And this would actually, some of the suggestions here could be accommodated within that. Are there any questions for Larry on this? I mean, really, it's a very simple ask. We want a gate and a way to get down to the water. for lots of different reasons, practical as well as educational. Did everybody get a chance to read this? I know it was emailed out today. Oh, Dina. We've got that. We need to rename Solar One in the reso, but that we can do that. That's an easy fix. Dina has let us know that. Who's here on the call? If we have any questions for her about this.
So, so what we see here is the name of the entity that in the was it the first whereas? That's where that change goes, I believe. No.
We can just send that to the to the board office after.
Third whereas? I can't see.
We can change it later, Larry. Don't worry. And Adam, you had your hand up?
Yeah, if there are no more questions, call to question.
Great. Do we need to second? Thank you, Letty. And we'll take we'll vote by roll call. Brendan will do that for us. And the motion to support providing water access to the Solar 2 Environmental Education Center.
Okay. And just, before going to the vote, I made the correction to the legal name in the third whereas. So that's already taken care of.
Thank you.
But in any event,
I do have a question for Dina. Is the new building going to be called Solar 1 or Solar 2?
What a good question, Larry. Honestly, I think we would prefer for it to have a completely new name. We just have not come up with a new name yet. For many years, while the project was in development, we would refer to it internally as Solar 2. And then when we started working on it with Big, we tried to convince everybody to start calling it Solar 1 Environmental Education Center. That hasn't really stuck. So the answer is, at the moment, I don't know. I think this is something that we're going to have to resolve over the next couple months. Hopefully by the time we do another groundbreaking, when the construction is actually starting, we'll know for sure what we're going to call it.
Well, I think that the way it's presently worded is somewhat flexible. Can you take a look at the way the whereas is, and Dina, see if you'd like to tweak that?
Sure.
And Dina, while we have you on the phone, when is the groundbreaking going to happen? Do you have a better timeline now for? Should start?
So I don't think that the timeline has been officially changed. So the hope is that the construction will begin in August of this year. So when exactly the groundbreaking would happen, I would have to check with the construction management team and the folks at EDC. But I will certainly give everyone plenty of advance notice.
And we're glad it's happening. That's all. We just want to see it on track.
Thank you.
So Brendan,
I think,
go ahead, Dean.
Probably for the sake of simplicity, let's just, Brendan, please call it Solar 1 Environmental Education Center. Wherever that wording, just like it says at the top of the resolution. I think that's fine.
So just have it say Solar 1 Environmental Education Center instead of just Solar 1, or? No,
Solar 1 is still the entity that will manage all of these things. But if there's a place where it's referred to as Solar 2, we can just change it to Solar 1 Environmental Education Center.
Well, the only place that it currently has that is in the resolved. If you can scroll down to the resolved.
So
yeah, let's just change that. Yeah. Great.
Better?
Right.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we can vote now then, Brendan. I think we're set.
Yes, there is a motion on the floor currently. So when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or abstain for cause. Majed Abdul Samad.
In favor.
Jim Collins.
Sorry, in favor.
Okay. Adam Harkey.
In favor.
Sandra McKee.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
In favor.
In favor.
Sandro is not present. Let's see. Jonathan DeRica.
In favor.
Rich Mintz. Was that in favor, I heard?
Yes.
Excellent. Susan Steinberg.
In favor.
Gabe Terzo.
In favor.
And Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
In favor.
Okay. With 10 in favor, nobody opposed, abstaining, or abstaining for cause, the resolution passes.
Great, thank you, and thank you, Dina. Hopefully we'll be able to get to the water. We'll see what happens. And so, chair's report, and hopefully everybody's looking over that reso and just, you know, speed reading. We had foiled the documents that were part of the approved zoning for the Solo site, and Solo site being the large open area on First Avenue between, I believe it's 41st and 37th. It was part of a ULIP action, and there's definitely an existing plan for what is to be built. And so the office has foiled that next week, how long it's going to take to get those documents and get a better idea of what actually could be built there. And I think people remember that this was one of the places that potentially was looking for a casino license. So it's been empty for such a long time. We're really trying to see when something can be built in this location. Keith Power's office confirmed that there are currently no proposals to locate the sanitation garage that is required in our district. It was to go on the Brookdale site, which is now the SPARC, the Science Park and Research Campus Project. I also asked Keith Power's office if they had any update. They have no additional information. So the mayor has a kind of visual on the city site, but there really is not a lot of information. That's all we have to go with so far. So we'll continue to ask, but no new information there. We do have a planning fellow, and Majed has been working with Lauren, and we're trying to see if she might be able to come to our next meeting. I don't know, Majed, is there an update that you want to give us?
Sure. Yeah. So Lorraine, who's a graduate student in her last semester in public policy at CUNY, looking at, reviewing some of just our district's priorities, and her focus is really trying to combine a few things, looking at vacant lots, looking at the environmental standing of our district, what pilot projects have been implemented in other districts around us, in the city elsewhere, or in other cities even, and trying to compile all these together to just put like early rough drafts of proposals or like for pilot projects. So this is still a lot of work in progress, compiling GIS data and trying to create that narrative, but with data, not just with our opinion. So hopefully we'll be able to report back to you all on the next month, just with progress, where are we? And target goal is for April for her to present to the committee and later to the full board on the work that she's doing.
Great. And also Rich's committee is interested in looking into some of the City of Yes issues for housing, so we will continue to do that. That's one of the good things that's going to happen with the with having some overlap on our committees. And it's a long ongoing process, a lot of detail. Also, the city has something called BLAST, which is what they're saying is going to help get projects moved faster through the system. And it also has some very interesting details, some ideas for changing the EIS requirements, what goes through ULERT. There are a lot of moving parts to it. So it's a very complicated series of proposals. And that's it for my report, but old or new business? Do we have any new business from any committee members? And then old business, might we be ready to vote on our resolution? Jim?
Jim, you're currently
You're muted, Jim.
This is under new business. It took me a moment to
Oh, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
the hand. And something I think maybe we ought to think about as a community board. One of the councilmen in Brooklyn developed an environmental action plan solely for his city council district, kind of at a micro level. He said, we're not doing anything at the state level, we're not doing anything at the federal level. And that struck me as a very appropriate means of addressing all of these issues. Things like arranging composting more frequently, measuring electrical usage and gas, natural fuel gases, et cetera. I would. He has the thing up somewhere, and if I can find it, I'll circulate it to the board office. But I think it's something that maybe we should consider. I mean, I've always had a bugaboo about single-use plastic milk bottles and plastic egg cartons and what have you. The city wants to require you to specifically request knives and forks. Well, that's kind of performative in my view. Something like this would be more substantive. So that was just the thought, and perhaps I can raise it at another meeting.
I think it's a great idea and something that we have a lot of data, but you're right. We need something very specific for our neighborhood. So
Right.
Absolutely. And actually, we can ask for planning fellows next year as well. If we have something very specific like this, they're an excellent resource to help us understand and put together these reports. So that could be something that we ask for a planning fellow. I see lots of other hands up there, but thank you, Jim. I'm not sure who next. Jonathan, you're on my top left, so go ahead.
All right, I made it. I had two quick questions about the draft resolution, or I hope they're quick questions.
Okay.
I was wondering if there's a word missing in the second to last bullet under zoning for housing. It says infringements of newly constructed non-residential. Then I think there should probably be a noun there, taking advantage and converting immediately. My second question was that there's a subject matter expert referenced in the third whereas, and I was just wondering if it'd be possible to get like a 30-second 5 Mile High overview of who the subject matter expert is and what was discussed.
So, starting with the word missing, Brendan, if you just highlight that.
Where was it again, John?
Oh, further down.
I think it was the second to last bullet under zoning for housing on the final page. And I think there might be a missing noun after newly constructed non-residential.
Non-residential developments. Yes, thank you for
Developments.
catching that.
Under non-residential developments.
Yes. Okay, and to your second question, Jonathan, that was George Janes, who attended 2 of our committee meetings and gave really great presentations, which I believe are now on our website. But they've been circulated, and I'm happy also to forward again. They're great because he goes through step by step, sharing what he believes are the opportunities and where some areas that helped us understand what's relevant for us. So yeah, even the recordings, if you go back and watch, I highly recommend it. Just some background listen while you have dinner.
I'll check them out. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and he's actually a planner that is on retainer with us, so he helps us deal with a lot of these planning issues. He's got a lot of knowledge. Works with many community boards throughout the city. I think Dave, your hand was up next.
Yeah, thank you. So also regarding the second to last bullet point, I'm not entirely sure why we should care if this happens. If somebody quote unquote, why are we terribly concerned about the age of a building that converts? One, that seems like an incredibly capital intensive way to sneakily build housing, and 2, if that does happen, great, more housing.
Majed, do you want to answer that, or should I?
Yeah,
I
I'll just say this is specifically to projects that are like new construction, as in recently finished, not as in new construction in the past decade. Especially because, as you know, if you build for office, you get away with things that you wouldn't in residential in terms of access to light and whatnot. So create units that honestly are just terrible to live in. So I just want to make sure that the city is addressing that possibly loophole that developers can use just to create way more residential square footage than they can. And again, subprime conditions, to put it very nicely. Sandy, I don't know if you have more or...
Sorry, just a quick follow-up then. Are we tolerating these sort of, as you said, subprime conditions in the rest of the conversions just by virtue of the fact they're conversions?
No, so that actually is the point, 2 points before. One of the points, the very last point, just the minimum air and light and air requirements that, for an existing building, and we shared last during our last call just a link for some analysis that were done for buildings here on 3rd Avenue in Midtown. And what they did, you have to really cut through slabs. You really have to open up the building to bring in, not necessarily for cross ventilation, just for the most basic access to light and air. So we're inquiring about that as well.
But yes, there are leeways given to office buildings. And one of the things that came up was you could build an office building tomorrow and get away, it's higher FAR, it's less restrictive and lots of things. And then, I'm going to convert it to housing. So it does mean substandard housing that gets put into the system by kind of, doing this workaround within the zoning. And that's the concern that it's addressing. Susan.
Okay, well, first let me say that now I got to read the whole thing. It's well done. I just want to make an observation that we say absolutely nothing about the city of Yes with respect to economic development. Maybe there's nothing to say, but it was kind of interesting that nothing appeared about it. Well, now that I've stopped the conversation.
Well, I was trying to think, like, there are things like dancing. Dancing is going to be allowed in bars as part of this. And we didn't have an opinion. Everybody thought it was good.
Okay. I didn't want an oversight.
And actually, it is a good question. Maybe it should go in front of like your committee and just see if there's anything in there that we should be supporting or talking more about. We did focus this more on land use, to be honest. So,
okay, that's fine.
It's a good point, Larry.
Okay, just continuing with what Jonathan started and with the most recent comments, changing this next to last bullet here. So it says non-residential developments, and there are a couple of omissions that I'd like to fill in. Taking advantage of for example, I'll suggest some language, lenient non-residential restrictions. And then continuing and converting immediately, insert to residential use. And instead of with less than ideal conditions, resulting in less than ideal conditions. Resulting in.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Do you have more, Larry?
That's it for that item. And then there was just a where the photovoltaics were abbreviated. Perhaps that should PVs should go after the word panels.
So just one quick stylistic note. I actually looked this up, and it's simply photovoltaic. That means PV, not full photovoltaic.
Well, then it should be singular.
So yeah.
Okay, fine.
And I'll make that correction.
No, solar PVs, that plural there, that's fine, as you had it on that last line.
Where with those, Michelle? It's I mean, it's your resume. I just feel it's okay.
Yep, this is great. Thank you, Larry. Sorry for the poor English. This is helpful. I appreciate it.
And
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay, and then Jim.
Yeah, I had a suggested amendment. Under the housing, on the third bullet point, I think that should read affordable housing. We believe that a wider requirement should be considered to include some level of affordable housing in every new residential building over a certain size. You can't force someone to, create affordable housing in a building that's already built. It's a takings, it's illegal.
It's just that in every
New
residential that building. Means also converted.
New or converted, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you took one of the office towers and,
right, converted it
to residential. Yeah. So I would just say new residential building.
Okay. Okay. Are we ready to vote? Do we feel comfortable with? Oh, Adam?
Call to question.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Seconded by Susan. Okay.
So when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, oppose, abstain, or abstain for cause. Majed Abdul Samad.
In favor.
Jim Collins.
Didn't catch that, Jim, I don't think.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jim Collins.
Hold on. Yes.
In favor?
In favor, yes. Aye.
Okay. Adam Hartkey.
In favor.
Sandy McKee.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
All right. In favor.
Okay. Jonathan Dorico.
In favor.
Rich Mintz.
In favor.
Susan Steinberg.
In favor.
Gabe Terzo.
In favor.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
In favor.
Okay. With 10 in favor, nobody opposed, abstaining, or abstaining for cause, the resolution unanimously passes.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone, and welcome all our new members. It's going to be great to have you all join in our discussions. I'm looking forward to any ideas or suggestions and things that we should be addressing. If there are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting. Seeing no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 8:20.
Just very quickly, I just posted
sorry.
I just posted the climate program I mentioned earlier from Lincoln Westler, if you want to take a look at it. He's a councilman in Brooklyn.
Thank you.
Yep.
Night all.